Up, we got artificial neurons developed to fight diseases from University of Bath researchers. So basically, for people who don't know, neurons are the things in your body that carry signals to and from the brain to the rest of your body, like messengers, kind of. And so far, researchers replicated two types of neurons, including cells from the hippocampus, which plays a role in memory, and then the brain cells involved controlled in breathing. And so this is hopefully going to kind of lead a path to figuring out a cure for things like Alzheimer's and heart failure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, I don't have much to add. I'm excited for the future with regards to this stuff. Are you an optimist?
I have no idea if this is true, but have you seen the TED Talk about coconut oil and Alzheimer's?
That it helps, I presume?
Insane.
Yeah.
So I really can't, unfortunately, I wouldn't bet my life that it's true because it's just a TED Talk, and we've seen TED Talks get disproved later.
Yeah.
But someone is saying that there's evidence when you have Alzheimer's, one of the things that shows that you have it is you can't draw a clock. I don't know why. You just can't remember what you were doing. And so what should be a circle with the numbers 12 through 11 ends up being just a weird try with random numbers. It's a disaster. We'll see if we can pull up the image for people. And allegedly, some amount of coconut every day, coconut oil, the person can draw a clock, which just means that the amount of I remember what I'm doing has skyrocketed. So it's awesome to do cyber neurons to solve dementia. But I thought it was interesting that there might be nutritional things that help too. And I can't guarantee that one is true, but I do think it's interesting. In America, we love technology and we love pills. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if this were a pill that had that study, I'm positive that it would have been aggressively researched, potentially patented, and being sold if that study were true.
Yeah.
But when it's coconut oil, there's not a lot of money to be made.
Yeah.
So very, very, very infrequently have I ever gone to a doctor and been given nutritional suggestions.
Also, I don't know if it's just America or if it's people, but coconut oil, maybe it reverses it, maybe it doesn't. But a lot of those things that are diet related are preventative in nature, and they add up over the course of a lifetime to a much better third act of one's life. And no, man, we want the intervention after after we're crippled. Yeah. We want to just be made to have our legs walk on our back straight. Well, and all those sorts of things.
This is fascinating. You know this, but I used to do coaching, and I didn't just do charisma coaching. I bought this crazy Tony Robbins course so I could do interventions for other stuff. And the way that you help people they have life-threatening obesity is you have to force them to future project. So I had this woman. It was like, this is going to sound like a really mean thing to do, but she was very thankful. We're close still. She was just having her body get worse and worse and worse, and she knew it was bad in her front brain, but wouldn't work out or change her diet. And the way that we broke through to have her lose 100+ pounds was sit there and think about when you're dead and your kid is 12.
Yeah.
And she had to sit in it for an hour till she was crying hysterically, basically, because it was the only way to show her how important it was. Because we have this weird thing where short-term pleasure is much more exciting than long-term pain. It's so far away. So if you don't bring that long-term pain up to your forefront aggressively and vividly, it's like, I'll just do it later. I'll deal with it later. So that's why nutritional changes in diets normally don't stick.
I wonder how so take Eckhart Tolle, for example. He's getting old fast in the sense that, like, he's kind of got a hunch. I do wonder if one of the potential downsides of very present experience is that it necessitates, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, less investment in longevity in the future.
Well, this is something I talk to people about because I'm very future focused, right? I try to eat with this book called Anti-Cancer changed my diet completely. Yeah. Because my grandpa died of cancer. And so then when I read this book, I was like, oh my God, sugar causes cancer. I had no idea. It blew my mind. And so I changed my whole diet because of that book. But I don't think people are obligated to do that. I actually think everyone has a right to live however they want and die as young as they want. The only time it's an issue, I think, is when your health, how do I put this? When your decisions lead to health issues for yourself, and then somehow that has to cost the state money to reverse or keep you alive. You know what I'm saying? So if your obesity leads to you using public insurance, I think that's not necessarily fair. But if you just want to eat however you want and then have a heart attack and not live to be 100 because you don't care, I don't think that's any better or worse than eating spinach every day to live to be 100. I say do your thing and just deal with the consequences.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know how to discourage that. There's a lot of ways in, and this is this is the interesting debate. It's semi-political, but I'm not even interested in the political aspect. Where is the highest leverage point of intervention? One is to write legislation, for instance, that takes all of these fast food places and says, you can't use this kind of food. You got to have more expensive, better ingredients, as far as we know. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, what will happen is they'll just pick the cheapest ingredient that's still on the list that gives you a different kind of cancer in a different way, right? So I do think those public interventions are important for getting rid of certain carcinogens and all that, you know, can't smoke.
Help repair the ozone.
Yeah, but what often happens is they just find okay, you said I can't use this, like I'll bump up to the next most terrible thing that I can create cheaply in an industrial way. So that's got limited power, it seems.
Well, that's the big gun control debate. English people like to point out that their violence is mostly knife violence.
Yeah.
So yeah, violence still occurs. Criminals still exist. But
this is why I keep coming back to consciousness, and perhaps that's the final leg of the journey is once you get the most or effective policies in place that you.
What do you mean when you say consciousness?
Okay, so for instance, if you're the CEO of McDonald's, and we have decisions like this every time in our business, where we go, we could lie in this ad copy. We just had to review a guy who wrote.
It's hilarious how much people want to lie.
And wrote a testimonial, and then we looked back at the testimonial that he was referencing and said, that's not what she said. And that happens all the time in businesses. Now, thank God we checked. But yeah, that you can lie and earn more money, that you can use ingredients that you believe aren't good for people and earn more money, that you can sell products. In fact, there's entire industries that I would be very skeptical of in terms of the value that they provide in people's lives, as opposed to just creating anxieties that are temporarily relieved by the purchase of said luxury item. Right?
Well, but here's my thing again. If people thought McDonald's was healthy, that's bad. But if someone walks into a McDonald's and they know this is going to kill me, but I like it, okay.
Well, that would be both. So there's higher consciousness both in the consumer and in the producer of that.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't think McDonald's, weirdly enough, I don't think McDonald's has an obligation to sell healthy food if people know that it's unhealthy and are just signing up for the consequences.
If you were the CEO of McDonald's, would you change things?
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. They don't have an obligation, but given the fact that you care, you would do it. And I'm not saying there needs to be a legal thing that states that you
weirdly,
must.
I'd probably just source my beef differently. I don't know that I would. My customers are humans with brains. They can do what they want. You know, probably the first change I'd make is not use slaughterhouses that mistreat animals.
Okay, you'd be spending you would radically you destroy the business.
Yeah. The board of directors get rid of me real fast. But actually, it might be illegal because I'd be failing my fiduciary responsibility. There's a weird legal duty when your company's public, to maximize profits.
So, and this is what I mean when I say a higher. This is what people I think generally mean when they say higher consciousness. Is you would go, hey, we can't keep doing this. We can't run a business that is so unethically sourced, run, created, etc. And of course, there's got to be room for free consumer choice. But I'm not going to be involved with providing trash to people that comes at the mass suffering of these animals. And so you're not a good candidate for that. And as more and more people opt out, you know what I mean, have experiences similar to yours that lead them not to do that, there's no one left to be CEO of McDonald's. We need a new organization called Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger or something.
No knock to the CEO of McDonald's, who might be a lovely person.
I'm sure is.
And we definitely are not slandering, libeling, or defaming.
I'm sure, and this is the other thing, these people are always, not always, often wonderful to their families, wonderful to their friends, generous in ways, but deeply unaware, as we all are, of the system that they're involved in and what it perpetuates. And so this is why I say that consciousness, that expansion of your moral sphere is the number one thing that I'm interested in terms of bettering human life, not necessarily just the technological breakthroughs, which do make it easy. But as long as people are selfish, they're going to take advantage of themselves and one another. And then, to your point, the person who's choosing to eat McDonald's, if they had a higher degree of consciousness, they probably would try to find other ways to get their sustenance that wasn't necessarily so bad for them. And I'm broadly characterizing McDonald's here. I don't know if all their food is good or terrible or what. Maybe there's a salad on the menu that isn't terrible for you.
We sprinted a very long distance from coconut oil, and I'm proud of us.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we do. We bring up news articles that have nothing to do with where we wind up.
What's our next inspiration, Justin?
I have a question for you. I mean, do you think it's their responsibility to, like the CEO of McDonald's, for example, do you think it's their responsibility? Because I would assume what you're saying is at the top, they kind of maybe don't see the impacts of the people like at the bottom who are the consumers. Do you think it's their responsibility to sort of like figure out those ethics?
So I think that I try to not judge and recognize that I lived a large part of my life. For instance, one of the things I try not to do is eat meat, right? I've been pretty good about that. But don't think it's a legal responsibility. I do think that as people get older, free up more time, energy, and space, one has a moral responsibility to look at the cost of their way of life and what sacrifices need to be made by animals, the environment, and other people in order to maintain it. And then to say, this is my moral code is, were I born into a different position in the society, a different body, would I want to somebody in that position behaving as if they do? Meaning, were I an employee at McDonald's, is the behavior that I'm currently doing as the CEO what I would like that other CEO to do? Or would I like them to redistribute the money a bit more egalitarian? I don't know exactly what it would be, but I do think there's a moral responsibility to question.
Yeah, and the art is to look at yourself and make decisions for yourself. Because, for instance, I drive to surfing. I could walk an hour and a half.
Sure. Instead,
I drive a half hour. Honestly, I could walk for 2 hours with my surfboard. I drive for a half hour. That burns gas, which goes into the air. So I'm not perfect. I think the only way to be perfect would be to sit alone until you died of starvation.
Well, there's a group of people who I don't agree with, but are like, humans just need to die. We all need to kill ourselves. Yeah. Now, weirdly enough, many of them don't kill themselves.
Yeah. Instead, they use electricity to write their magnum opus, thus hurting the environment. No, that's my point, is that we're not perfect. And I'm not saying that everybody has to be perfect. In fact, I'm saying no one can be. So my take is the idea is to reflect on yourself and see where you're doing the most harm that you can stop. How can you just be better? And just keep trying to be better.
Yeah, just slight incremental improvements. And I think actually life from infancy to adulthood is a series of expansions of your sphere of concern. So when you're an infant, you're like, I don't care what needs to be done to give me what I want or who I'm pissing off on this airplane or I just need what I need. And then you're taught to share. And then, you become an adult and you're taught to provide beyond sharing, like not just take what you have and cut it in half, like go earn and spread more. And then as you become a community leader, your sphere of concern increases. And so I do think that all people, wherever they are at in their age, chronological stage, and also their consciousness evolution, you should just try to push the boundary a little bit further.
And to your point, to tie into what you said earlier, if you're not a billionaire, you can still give $30 once a year to people to provide clean water to them. No matter who you are, you can do something incrementally so that you're doing more for the world than you were.
Yeah. While recognizing, myself included, you're always causing harm.
Yeah.
And the goal is not to be perfect, as you said. The goal is to just do just a little bit better.
Yeah, and try to live in a way that if everybody did, the world would be a much better place.
Mm-hmm. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Okay.
Putting us on the spot, keeping us on our toes.
I appreciate it because Ben and I can agree.
Yeah, it's great.
Often.
We got to get a fourth camera, get Justin's face on the camera.